So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 23rd chapter. I believe text 25. Deva Uchuhu Aho iyam badhurthanya Yachaivam Bhubhujam Patim Sarvatmana Patim Beje Yagnesham Shrir Vadhuriva. The wives of the demigods said, all glories to Queen Archi. We can see that this queen of the great King Prithu, the emperor of all the kings of the world, has served her husband with mind, speech, and body exactly as the goddess of fortune serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yagnesha or Vishnu. In this verse, the words Yagnesham Shrir Vadhur Iva indicate that Queen Archi served her husband just as the goddess of fortune serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu. We can observe that even in the history of this world, when Lord Krishna, the Supreme Vishnu, was ruling over Dwaraka, Queen Rukmini, who was the chief of all Krishna's queen, used to serve Lord Krishna personally, in spite of having many hundreds of maid servants to assist her. Similarly, the goddess of fortune in the Vaikuntha planets also serves Narayan personally. Although there are many thousands of devotees prepared to serve the Lord, this practice is also followed by the wives of the demigods. And in days past, the wives of men also followed the same principle. In Vedic civilization, the husband and wife are not separated by such man-made laws as divorce. We should understand the necessity for maintaining family life in human society and should thus abolish this artificial law known as divorce. The husband and wife should live in Krishna consciousness and follow the footsteps of Lakshmi Narayan or Krishna Rukmini. In this way, peace and harmony can be possible within this world. The Prabhupada is emphasizing on the point that the farther we go from the Vedic injunctions, the more we aggravate the misery quotient of our lives. So it is basically the sinful, rebellious, belligerent mentality of the living entity, which actually adds up, or rather makes the entire quota, makes up for the entire quota of the misery what he experiences in life. And the more we follow the injunctions of the Shastras, the more we follow the injunctions of Dharma, even materially one can be peaceful and happy. Shaishano nambrajati urdhvam anuvenyam patim sati pashyatasman atityarshir durvibhavayena karmanah. The wives of the demigods continued. Just see how this chaste lady Archi, by dint of her inconceivable pious activities, is still following her husband upward as far as we can see. Both Prithu Maharaj's airplane and the airplane carrying Queen Archi were passing out of the vision of the ladies of the higher planetary systems. These ladies were simply astonished to see how Prithu Maharaj and his wife achieved such an exalted position. Although they were the wives of the denizens of the higher planetary system, and Prithu Maharaj was an inhabitant of an inferior planetary system, the earth, the king, along with his wife, passed beyond the realm of the demigods and went upward to Vaikuntha Loka. The word urdhvam, upward, is significant here. For the ladies, speaking were from the higher planetary systems, which include the moon, the sun, the Venus, up to Brahmaloka, or the highest planet. Beyond Brahmaloka is the spiritual sky. And in that spiritual sky, there are innumerable Vaikuntha Lokas. Thus, the word Urdhvam indicates that the Vaikuntha planets are beyond or above these material planets. And it was to these Vaikuntha planets that Prithu Maharaj and his wife were going. This also indicates that when Prithu Maharaj and his wife Archi abandoned their material bodies in the material fire, they immediately developed their spiritual bodies and entered into spiritual airplanes, which could penetrate the material elements and reach the spiritual sky. Since they were carried by two separate airplanes, it may be concluded that even after being burned in the funeral pyre, they remained separate individual persons. In other words, they never lost their identity or became void as imagined by the impersonalists. The ladies in the higher planetary systems were capable of seeing both downward and upward. When they looked down, they could see the body of Prithu Maharaj was being burned, and that his wife, Archi, was entering into the fire. And when they looked upward, they could see how they were being carried into airplanes to the Vaikuntha Lokas. All of this is possible simply by Durvibhavyena Karmana, inconceivable activity. Prithu Maharaj was a pure devotee, and his wife, Queen Archi, simply followed her husband. Thus, they can both be considered pure devotees, and thus they were capable of performing inconceivable activities. Such activities are not possible for ordinary men. Indeed, ordinary men cannot even take to devotion or service of the Lord, nor can ordinary women maintain such vows of chastity and follow their husbands in all respects. A woman does not need to attain high qualifications, but if she simply follows in the footsteps of her husband, who must be a devotee, then both husband and wife attain liberation and are promoted to the Vaikuntha Lokas. This is evinced by the inconceivable activities of Maharaj Prithu and his wife. Srila Prabhupada highlights here the inconceivable activities of a pure devotee. So, on one hand, we may see that downward vision of the demigod. They were seeing that the bodies of Prithu Maharaj and Mother Archie were burning. But immediately they could even see that they were being escorted in airplanes to Vaikuntha uh, in their spiritual bodies. So, so this is amazing. Rather, we will see now. This is so this is a very panoramic description of the inconceivable potency which a pure devotee may get. So one may say, okay, he's losing his body, lost life, but he's not lost his life. He is gaining the eternal life in Vaikuntha. So we can see that. In a similar way. So rather, by his consciousness, pure devotee enters the spiritual realms much before. Just like Srila Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was so much absorbed uh, in the feeling that, or in he was so much absorbed in the thought of the spiritual world. And then Maharaj is ready that I'm going to the spiritual world uh, to make preparations to serve and welcome those who are going to come later. You know? That was his mood. In a similar way, uh, Srila Bhakti Charu Maharaj also was so much absorbed uh, in the thought of now his next mission to assist Srila Prabhupada in another planet. So, yeah, and rather he was hankering for it. He was hankering for it. But okay, because Maharaj was feeling that my service, whatever Prabhupada had given, all my services I have done. Now I'm ready to go to Srila Prabhupada to take next set of instructions, next set of services. That was his mood. Therefore, he was hankering to move on. You know, you know. So that's the point. Actually, great souls. Now this is inconceivable, is it not? This is inconceivable. So uh, quite interesting, no? This is Uh, so, so this is quite inconceivable. Now, how can somebody hanker to give up his body? Because they are attached to service, is it not? They are attached to service, and this goes to show that actually a devotee, for him, his eternal body is activated, so his eternal body is awakened, and therefore what he sees is eternal service, and this is inconceivable, amazingly inconceivable. Uh, uh, but this is the matrix of spiritual life. Rather, rather we can see uh, in an incremental fashion the entire process of the development of Krishna consciousness is inconceivable. It's very amazing because you see devotees seem to be doing very normal routine activities sometimes. Uh, 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 but then how they have crossed over uh, the various stages of not the various stages of development of love of Godhead becomes quite inconceivable. Like we have seen so many senior devotees and Srila Prabhupada disciples at the time of their leaving the body, what is their consciousness? And sometimes even devotees who look like doing some normal service somewhere in the background here and there, not known by anyone. But then we see, they spend throughout their lives, doing, you know, uh, doing the service and in that way. And then we see in the last day their consciousness completely fixed in Krishna, and we see with that. And we are able to understand how they leave their body. And one is wondering, how they could develop such an attachment for Krishna. So the point is, the process of Krishna consciousness itself is inconceivable. That's the point. The the entire process of Krishna consciousness is inconceivable, actually. So, uh, uh, so therefore, actually, for a devotee, the passage of time is not inglorious. For a materialistic person, the passage of time is very inglorious and miserable, actually, because for a non-devotee, no, because everything is ending for him. For him, it's a countdown and everything is finishing. But for a devotee, everything is on the rising curve. So, why? Because his eternal life and his eternal service to Krishna is getting awakened. And that's what is happening here. Therefore, His Holiness Bhakti Dev Damodar Maharaj had told me that how His Holiness Bhakti Tirth Maharaj, uh, he had a full plan of how he wants to die. And he was looking up to it. He had preparations for it. Like one time he had told me that Maharaj had bought, Maharaj had bought the coffin, where he would be lying, and because, yeah, for a devotee, everything is royal. Nothing is shabby, uh, nothing is. Nothing is shabby and melancholic. Nothing is dark. Everything is royal, like that. So Maharaj has purchased a coffin, like that. And Maharaj was preparing. We hear from Radhanand Maharaj's lecture that even in his last days, there was a time when Maharaj was doing kirtans, and he was all prepared to leave his body while doing the kirtans. And therefore, he was so intense and Kirtan, I think there's YouTube also. Last Kirtan of British Swami, and like that. So Maharaj is very intense. And actually, he was all set and he had prepared to leave his body while chanting the holy names, like that. But then the kirtan went on, and and then Radha Maharaj was telling by the end, at the end of the kirtan, British Swami was a bit disappointed because he wanted to leave his body. So he wanted to leave his body. So he wanted to basically leave his body, in that kirtan, like that. But maybe Krishna had a little different plan. Krishna had a little different plan actually. So that's the point. Quite inconceivable enough for us, but it's not inconceivable as one advances because his spiritual reality is. I mean, it's not difficult to digest for one who is advanced because for him, his actual identity is his spiritual identity, not the material body. You know? Not the material body, like that. So Krishna consciousness can make everything exciting, even death. You know? But one has to be very advanced for that. That's the point. तेषां दुरापं किं तवन्यान् मर्त्यानां भगवत्पदम् भुवि लोलायुषो ये वै नैष्कर्म्यं साधयन्ति उत. In this material world, every human being has a short span of life. But those who are engaged in devotional service go back home, back to Godhead, for they are actually on the path of liberation. For such persons, there is nothing which is not available. In Bhagavad Gita 9:33, Lord Krishna says, Anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasvamam. The Lord here declares that this material world is full of miseries, asukham, and at the same time is very flickering, anityam. Therefore, one's only duty is to engage himself in devotional service. That is the best end to which human life can be put. Those devotees who are constantly engaged in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord achieve not only all material benefits, but also all spiritual benefits. For at the end of life, they go back home, back to Godhead. Their destination is described in this verse as Bhagavat Padam. The word Padam means abode, and Bhagavat means the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, the destination of the devotees is the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this verse, the word Naishkarmyam means transcendental knowledge, is also significant. Now, unless one comes to the platform of transcendental knowledge and offers devotional service to the Lord, one is not perfect. Generally, the processes of yoga, jnana, and karma are executed life after life before one gets a chance to render pure devotional service to the Lord. This chance is given by the grace of a pure devotee, and it is in this way only that one can actually attain liberation. In the context of this narration, the wives of the demigods repented because they had the opportunity of a birth in a higher planetary system, a lifetime spanning millions of years, and all the material comforts. They were not as fortunate as Prithu Maharaj and his wife, who were actually surpassing them. In other words, Prithu Maharaj and his wife scorned promotion to the higher planetary systems and even to Brahmaloka because the position which they were attaining was incomparable. In Bhagavad Gita 8:16, the Lord affirms, Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravrtino arjuna. From the highest planet in the material world to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. In other words, even if one goes to the highest planet Brahmaloka, he has to return to the miseries of birth and death. In the ninth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 921, the Lord Krishna also asserts, Tetam bhunktva swargalokam vishalam shine punye martyalokam vishanti. When they have thus enjoyed heavenly sense pleasure, they return to this mortal world again. Tetam bhunktva swargalokam vishalam shine punye martyalokam vishanti. Thus, after exhausting the results of pious activities, one has to come again to this, to the lower planetary systems, and begin a new chapter of pious activities. It is therefore said in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.12, Naishkarmyamapi achyuta bhava varjitam. The path of liberation is not at all secure unless one attains the devotional service of the Lord. Even if one is promoted to the impersonal Brahmajyoti, he runs every chance of falling down into this material world. If it is possible to fall down from the Brahmajyoti, which is beyond the higher planetary systems in this material world, then what can be said of the ordinary yogis and karmis who can only be elevated to the higher material planets? Thus, the wives of the denizens of the higher planetary systems did not very much appreciate the results of karma, jnana, and yoga. So that piety which takes one a little up and one has to come down. It's just like people do this in the metal world also they do, no? But they go in the balloon. You've seen the balloon, people go up in the balloon. There's a big balloon. No, you won't find here, but uh, in Melbourne it was quite common. You know? People go up in the balloon. You know? And then one is roaming around for 1 hour, 2 hour, you know. It would cost many thousands of dollars, but one ride. But but you're really up in the sky with the clouds, you know? And down is ocean. You're roaming around for a long time, you know, and uh, and then you can come down, you know, like that. So going to heavenly planets is exactly like that. What is the benefit? Go in a balloon, come down, you know. What's the benefit? In a similar way, going to the heavenly planets is exactly the same. So you first earn a lot of money, go have a balloon ride. When your money is finished, you come down, you know, to again start earning money for the next ride. So this is a person. This is whose characteristics? A person who is less intelligent, just like a child. Just like a child, he may behave very well, very obedient. Doesn't want to be obedient, but he has to be because if he's obedient, then he gets some. Then he can ask some money. He gets some pocket money. He gets some funds. As soon as he gets some funds, he does some. As soon as he gets some funds, he buys some toys. Some temporary things. Is it not like that? I remember we were very small. We used to be very obedient. To all relatives. And then sometimes we would ask them, can you give us 20 rupees, 50 rupees? But whenever you did any money, you would buy some comics, cartoon comics and all that. The very crazy after that. One time I got a lot of money, 400, 500 rupees, bought some 8, 10, 12 comics, like that. And my mother found out, she she gave back all the comics to the shopkeeper. But anyways, this is a childish proclivity, is it not? Like that. So similarly, so one has some facility for toy, and one maybe like somebody is staying in Delhi, so there is a pugar, with their toys. Somebody gets some money, and may want to go with his friends, have some rides, like that, to 300, 400, 500 rupees, just spend that, because every no, it's like a toy world. There are these what do you call it as? These play, machines. Some machine will do round, round, round. Some machine will be like a ship. It goes here, there. Apughar, amusement park. Oh, amusement park. So there are all these, toys basically, mechanized toys. The ship will move like this, or there is some. You can have a small car. You can ride. You can, give tucker to somebody. Huh? Train is there. Chuk chuk train is there. That round round Ferris wheel is there. So many, but everything you have to pay 50 rupees, 20 rupees. Everything has its own separate ticket. So children nearby, they get some money. Immediately they'll go there. 2 hours, have a nice time. Shine punye, martya lokam vichanti. Back to school. Back to mother father's instructions, showing the homework, sitting down. Again you get some money. Like that. Childish, is it not? It's basically childish. It's poultry intelligence. Ah, so uh, that's why great souls like Prithu Maharaj and Archie, for them, this stay in the heavenly planets was insignificant. For them, what they were getting, Prabhupada is explaining, was incomparable. There is no comparison only, is it not? Like somebody getting an opportunity to go to say Pughar, is getting 1,000 rupees, he can enjoy and come back, like that. Another person is getting opportunity to go to MIT, is there any comparison? No comparison. So it's like that. There is no comparison. Hare Krishna consciousness, there is no comparison. So rather seeing the dedication and example of Prithu Maharaj, the residents of the heavenly planet, they are getting awakened to the understanding that what they have been after and what they have with them is something very futile. That's why Prabhupada is clearly pointing out how these queens of the demigods who are staying in the heavenly planets, they are clearly able to realize the incompleteness of this path of karma, jnana, and yoga, which only brings them to some toy world, apughar, and just gives them some temporary titillations. So just see, a great soul, a pure devotee preaches everywhere, not only in the earth planet, but he's preaching everywhere actually. Prithu Maharaj Archie, they're preaching to the heavenly abode people also, personalities also, right? Prabhupada also used to preach, Prabhupada would give lectures, right? So, yeah, the demigods. Many of them will come to attend Prabhupada's classes like that. One time Prabhupada revealed also one seminar hall pastime is there. There were only 2-3 people. Prabhupada was speaking as if so much energy, as if 10,000 people are there. But there were only devotees and some 2-3 visitors. That also out of compassion they had come like that. And Prabhupada was speaking as if it was Pandal program, 20,000, 30,000 people like that. That was Prabhupada's. And later devotees asked him, I'll be very sorry, Prabhupada, nobody came. But Prabhupada was not at all minding. Prabhupada said, no, no problem. A lot of people were there. Devotees saying, a lot of people were there. Prabhupada said, didn't you see Narad Muni was there? Brahmaji was there. And devotees are wondering, Narad Muni, Brahmaji. It took a long time for them to digest it. But that was the point, is it not? Yeah. In that temple, they have a seat for Narad Muni still, right? There is one place, and they have a seat for Narad Muni still. England only, yeah. England only. And that altar only, they have a seat for Narad Muni ever since that. That maybe Narad Muni will come and sit beside Prabhupada. Yeah, they have a seat. It's England, I think. Just outside the altar. Okay, so if some demigods or great personalities want to come, they can come sit and take darshan. Yeah. So yes, devotees do that. Uh, yeah, and Prabhupada would give other times also classes. You know, if we can give classes, sitting here, like I was sitting in Melbourne, I was giving classes here, and you know, to the devotees there, I would be seen, just sitting in a corner like this, and speaking to I don't know where, because speaking in front of the mobile. But then all our devotees are here in the class. Like we can do that. Prabhupada, like Raishambu gives classes to US, huh? And we'll also start now. Raishambu is giving instruction as soon as Pathu lands in US, I've told him every day morning, 7:30 to 9, anybody you bring in front of me, I'll speak to him. Any candidate, yeah, US, MIT candidates. So, was Rashompu was given instruction for us to preach. So we can do that. Why not proper? Proper's range and YouTube connectivity is up till the heavenly planets. Huh? Till the heavenly planets. Because yeah. So there will not be 4G, 5G connection. There will be 16G, 32G connection, which goes up till the Swargaloka. Swargaloka broadbands. Huh? Goloka broadband is pure devotee. Yes. Yes. That is there. The real G is Goloka. Yes. Hmm. Nice. Savanchito batatmadruk krichena mahata bhuvi labdha labdha vapavargyam manusyam vishayeshu visajjate. Any person who engages himself within this material world in performing activities that necessitate great struggle